Mm, beautiful. All right. It's actually perfect timing. It is the top of the hour. Welcome, everybody, to today's community conversation on Monday, December 16th. How is it December 16th? I'm not sure, but here we are at the end of the year. And I'm so excited that we're ending the year and I get to end it with one of my friends and colleagues, Geraldine, who's co-hosting with me. Hola, Geraldine. How are you today?
I'm great, Jose. Happy to be co-hosting with you. Thank you.
Such an honor. And today is the topic is Beyond the Pet Food Pantry, strategies to build sustainable pet food pantries and advocate for your community. So we're very excited to have everybody here today, and you're going to get to meet our two incredible presenters in just a few moments. But in true community conversations tradition, we got to kick it off with a question of the day. Thank you, Allison, for putting that in the chat. And it is, what does hunger look like for our pets at home? And when I read this question, I was like, I really need to sit, like, what do we all think that looks like? What assumptions might we have about what it looks like as it relates to pets experiencing hunger at home? And so we'll let the chat do that. What about when you hear that question, Geraldine, what kind of what does it drum up for you?
I love food. I'm a big foodie, and so for me, I don't like to be hungry. And when I think about even thinking about my pets being hungry, like it almost aches me in my belly because as I know, like Jorge and Sel are going to talk about, like it's something that's often unspoken. It's a silent experience sometimes for many. So yeah, I cannot imagine my pets being hungry. Like I cook for them, and cook special meals, and yeah, I cannot imagine hunger for them.
Yeah.
What about
And
you?
I think, when I was thinking about like what does hunger look like for pets at home, the first thing I realized is, wow, I don't think about that as much. And I sat with the fact that I don't think about that, which
Hmm.
speaks to the fact that I live such a privileged life and that that's not something that I have to contemplate. So that was just something that I kind of sat with because growing up, we grew up on food boxes and government assistance and food stamps and things like that. So I grew up where food scarcity was very much a thing. And so it was like this moment of like, oh, that's right. And I just thought of my mom who would feed her animals before she fed herself. And she
Hmm.
would do whatever it took to access food for our pets. And so it just reminded me of the lengths that people will go to and through to feed their animals.
Yeah, and I'm a big sucker for, even like when a dog is drooling in front of me, I'm like, I need to fulfill their need for eating whatever it is. Like I want to feed them. So
Yeah,
that's how I
yeah.
am.
And we have some different things in here. We've had
Yeah.
people saying unbalanced nutrition, pet owners who share the food they have with their beloved pet. So there, you're getting some different answers. And we're also seeing all the different people from all over the country who are coming in to listen to today. But I'm curious, Sal and George, what kind of answers do you hear a lot of? And this is what you do for a living. So what kinds of things do people normally say when they answer this question?
Go ahead. You're mute.
Sorry, could you repeat the question for me, please?
Yeah, like yeah, when people ask that, when you ask that question of people, or what do you think people think about that? Like what do people think food insecurity looks like for pets in a home?
Well, I think Geraldine kind of said um, or actually, Jose, you mentioned this earlier. It means not being hungry. Uh, you know, um, and like Geraldine said, you know, and I saw this at home. We'll feed. How do I say this? The grown-ups, I'll feed whoever, whether it's a child or the pet first before they feed themselves.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's what I've heard often. You know,
Yep.
they come first. We'll deal with it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
and then actually, I just had that the other day. This girl came in here and she said, "I didn't even know this was available to us. Now I don't have to think how I'm gonna make it stretch, at least until I get back on my feet."
Yep.
and that's why me and Jorge come from food banking. That's our previous job, and yeah, I was like, that's why we exist, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
For
yeah,
me,
Gracias.
I think it always goes back to like simple choices that you make daily without thinking, right? Like I'm hungry, I'm gonna go get something from the fridge. I'm hungry, I'm gonna go eat lunch and pay for it, right? Simple choices that they're daily in our lives, right? I don't know where they become big choices. Like, okay, if I buy this for myself, that means I'm not gonna be able to provide for my pets. So that means I had to make that sacrifice. And I think that's what I often hear, people making sacrifices for their loved ones, and that includes their pets. So when someone comes in here, they often think it's like, I had to pay my rent, and fortunately I just, I don't have enough to buy my dog this, or you know and and for me, that's what it comes down to. Like, the choices that you make become not more meaningful, but also more complicated, more complex, and more difficult to address, especially because when you lose that ability to provide for someone, in this case your pets, you kind of feel you lose control of your life. And I think that's always goes back to me, getting
Yeah.
people control of those choices.
Thank
yes.
you so much for sharing. And like you're all gonna get, you just got a little sneak peek of just some of the wisdom that's about to be dropped on this call. And so before we dive in, actually, what we're going to do for the sake of time, if for national updates, if people can just put in the chat any national updates they have, I want to make sure that we give Cel and Jorge enough time to share all that they have to share. So go ahead and drop any of those announcements in the chat. That'll be beautiful. And actually, with that, I'm going to hand it over to you, Geraldine, to introduce our speakers and the topic.
Thanks, Jose. And I'm excited to introduce our speakers today. So we have Jorge Delgado, who's the Community Initiatives Manager at the Humane Society of Sonoma County, and Cel Jimenez, who is the Community Initiatives Coordinator at the Humane Society of Sonoma County. And both of them come to us from the human services sector. So they're bringing in their perspectives, their insights, and their ideas, which is so refreshing and really like something that we need to hear. And like I was saying before we started recording, we need more of you in our industry. So today, like some of the takeaways that our speakers have for us is like focusing on the importance of feeding the whole family, because pets are part of the family, and also an understanding of the food chain supply between food banks and pet food pantries. So, also touching on hunger relief and those sort of topics. So, without further delay, I'd like to hand it over to both you, Jorge and Sil. Take it away.
Well, I think I'm gonna start. You guys already did a good job introducing us. So if you guys don't mind, we can just go ahead and jump in with the presentation. Is that okay?
Perfecto.
Okay. Okay. But first, I just want to say thank you once again for having us and for giving us this opportunity to talk about this, something that is really close to our heart, because we work very hard every day to provide for animals in our community and to help people just get back in their feet. What we hope we can accomplish this today, for those that are thinking about starting a pet food pantry, or those that are already in the battle, fighting every day with us for your community. I think what we want to take away today is to see beyond the impact that you do with your pet food pantry, and to see that there is something bigger out there that you are contributing, especially when it comes to hunger relief efforts. And to know that, no, it is not a strategy. It is not a what's it called? It's not a program that is not worth it. If anything, it's one of the programs that is worth every penny that you can invest on it, because the impact is so greater and the dividends later on will be bigger. But anyway, so we're gonna also discuss some strategies to build a sustainable pantry. As I mentioned, there's no a lot of support out there when it comes to pet food pantries from larger organizations, but that's what we're gonna talk about. How can you sustain it? and also advocate for your community. At the end of the day, we're here to speak for those that cannot speak for themselves, to point out an issue that is there. And because we're in these shoes, we have that responsibility to do that. So let's start. So whenever we talk about the pet food pantry here in the Humane Society of Sonoma County, we talk about the why. Why did we start this program in the first place? And I think it's like, why do you want to start this program in your shelter, right? And for us, it comes down to the part that how it's going to help the shelter, right? So the big thing is to reduce the number of animals entering the shelter system through honor surrender, prevent neglect and abandonment. That's pretty good, solid reasons why you might want to have this program. And the reason why you should start is, right? We know that the causes that bring someone to part away from their animals is something bigger going on in their home. It's a bigger problem out there. And so we gotta look at that issue and address that issue before it happens. What the community would understand from you, if you put these programs out there, if you're already running these programs, what the community see is a shelter that is responding to a call for help from your neighbors. We all neighbors in a community. We all see each other in the grocery stores. We might run into each other. We might not know each other, but we were gonna run into people. And to keep families together, that's the main goal, by no preventing surrenders. It means that the pet might stay with their person, that another family get to keep their cat, that another family get to keep their dog that have for 9 years, and that for suddenly they had to part away. But by doing this, we might be able to save that, and we might be able to have that continue. One of the things that for us makes us really very strong pet food pantry is defining our pet food pantry. So having a strong definition of who we are and who we want to serve allow us to make everyday choices simpler. And everyday choices, even the difficult ones, make it more, because we know what are our values and what are the things that we want to accomplish. So it makes everything basically go very smoothly if you in some way. So for us, our pet food pantry means access to pet food to people experiencing food insecurity at home. As I mentioned, there's a bigger problem out there. It might be not just the insecurity for their animal, but maybe themselves, they might be fighting hunger on their own. And one thing that I was taught when I started food banking 9 years ago was that hunger is something that you suffer in silence in the privacy of your own home. And I think I can speak of that personally because, like Jose, my family experienced hunger, and we were the ones that, it's a shameful thing to sometimes people to accept, and because you're telling yourself that you're not able to provide for yourself. And I remember being in those shoes, so definitely that experience helped me to be a better food banker and a better animal shelter employee. It also means pet food assistance for pets of people in need. So, sometimes need, it just happens, believe it or not, need happens everywhere. It could be just one accident, you're there, while you lost one income, a divorce, and you put yourself in a situation where you're now struggling with bigger issues. And emergency food aid for neighborhood pets in the time of need. So we know that some of the pantries, they're not meant to provide the entire need of a pet. They're not meant to long-term to provide long-term assistance. We're there to provide for the time being, for an emergency, and I think when you look at that point, then you would think of that it is possible to have a pet food pantry to help people, because you're don't gonna take that whole responsibility upon your shoulders. If you're thinking about starting a pet food pantry because you think you can cover all this, then maybe that's not the way right to approach it. You gotta look at the smaller impacts that you can make. And believe me, when you help someone for just 5 days or for just 3 days until the next paycheck comes in, that's all you need. That's a winning that anybody can accept. And then the next slide, I'm gonna hand it over to my partner, Jimenez.
So you're mute.
There we go. Can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Buenos dias, everybody. I'll be going over how our pet food pantry operates. Um, so, our operation size, um, in our intent with our operation size is to cover our whole county, meaning the whole Sonoma County here in Sonoma County, or here in Northern California. Uh, Go ahead. With that, we have two campuses here in Sonoma County. Um, our main location is here in Santa Rosa, and that's our main centralized location, um, meaning that Santa Rosa is pretty much the hub for most of the county. In our storage here in this campus, we have a shipping container that's where we store most of our food, or sometimes we also have accessories and other supplies that we hand out. And sometimes we also our office is our storage, depending on the amount of donations, or yeah, it's mostly depending on the donations that we get. Now our other our Hilbert location is a little further up north. In that location, um, it's pretty much the one that helps all our rural areas, because once you go up north, or maybe about 20 minutes up north from Santa Rosa, it's pretty much a desert out there, to where you have towns out in the west part of the county, north part of the county, where they're more spread out. There in Hillsburg, um, it's not a very big shelter. It's a smaller shelter. The only area that we have there for storage is our volunteer room. They share it with us. We have a rack there where we keep all the cat and dog food. Our operation hours. So since both our locations have different days that they're open, here in Santa Rosa, we're only open to the public from Tuesday to Sunday, but our pantry is only open from uh, Tuesday to Friday. Since we're not here during the weekends, we didn't want to leave that responsibility to anybody else here. That's why we only decided to open it 4 days a week. Um, from 10 to 6, and over in Hillsburg, we're open from Monday to Friday, and there we're open from 10 to 5:30. And our service frequency now, like Jorge was saying, we're not here to sustain the whole need, but let's say you do need food every day that we are open, meaning the pet pantry. You're allowed to come here those 4 days of the week if you're coming here to Santa Rosa, or those 5 days out of the week if you're going to Hillsburg. Food quantity. Um, we only give one bag of pet food, meaning um, we have a gallon bag for dog, and later on we'll show you what that little paper on it's and then a quart size for cats. We always check dates, best of dates for our food, so that we know that it's always fresh. And like I said, you're able to come here every time that our pet food pantries are open, and you're only allowed to take one bag of. Let's say you have both dog and cats at home, then you'll be able to take a dog bag and a cat bag. But that's you only get that regardless of the amount of pets you have at home. That's why we are allowing people to come here every day that the pet food pantry is open. Our distribution models it's either you come here and grab the food, like I said, every time the pet food pantry is open, as well as our distributions. We have set up partnerships with different people services organizations, to where they're allowing us to set shop with them. We have a great example over in West County where we have partnered up with a food pantry. So every time that they're delivering food for people, we're set shop there. We bring food and other supplies, and the same amount of food is given out. One bag of cat, one bag of dog, regardless of the amount of pets you have. And then we always invite them. If you do need more, then you can just come to our shelters. If you can make it out there, if you have the transportation, we'll be more than happy to serve you. And our volunteer support. As of right now, we have an amazing volunteer that comes here to help us bag foods, and he's going to be here later on. He comes here Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Um, he's a great guy, Paul, 84-year-old man. Um, he used to be a doctor. He comes in here, and the first thing he does is cracks a joke, and then he goes on bagging, and then he just leaves. But he makes our day every time he comes. And also, there we have, let's say companies or vineyards want to do a volunteer day at our shelter. uh, then they'll come here, and then they'll help us bag food as well. And this is when, and anybody, you're more than welcome to unmute and tell me that I'm going on a rant, because this is where it gets more passionate for us. Um, as you can see here, this is the first sourcing model for the California Association of Food Banks. And if you guys want to take a little, I don't know, 10-second glance at this and see what we might be missing in this picture. All right, now that you guys taken a moment, yep, pet food pantries is one thing that's missing from this diagram, um, to which if we were included in this diagram, as you can see, we have a warehouse. We have where that warehouse would be resourcing their food from, and then you see that they once they it goes to the warehouse, and it goes to the meal programs, food pantries, and if we were part of that whole diagram, uh, pet food pantries would be able to feed the whole family. As you can see now, the cat and the dog have been put in this part of the picture, um, and this would mean so much, because one thing that is we don't have now that would be a great asset for us would be having that storage um, for us to be able to store uh, bigger amounts of food, to where we would have the ability to bring more help to the community, or more help for people in need, and maybe not only in this county but our surrounding counties also. And now I'll let you know how we get a sustainable food pantry year round, and this is how we do our food sourcing. Our first, we do a call out to our community, and then individuals show up. We have these barrels. They drop them off here at the Humane Society. Sometimes we will have barrels outside in the community, depending if a vineyard or just business requests a barrel from us. Especially now in the holidays, we have a lot of businesses reaching out, letting us know, hey, could we have a barrel in our? We're trying to do a food drive for our pets, and that's our next way of how we source food, by doing food drives. And go ahead. Now, as I was telling you earlier, how we have people from doing volunteer days from a business, a vineyard. The only ask that we do when they ask us if they can come here and help us out is if they can sponsor a bag, meaning that we'll be more than happy to host you guys. The only ask from you guys is if you guys can all buy a bag of food, then they'll bring it over and they'll bag it here. We'll give them a tour and we'll show them that all that food that they're bagging is going for a great cause. Now, the other way that we also get food for our pantry is by food rescues, and food rescues is mostly um, from the partnerships that we've made from different pet food stores. They'll give us a call and they'll let us know, hey, we have some bags here. Uh, a forklift fork might have gone into one of them to where we can't sell it anymore, but it's still good food. They'll reach out to us and let us know we have these bags that we can't put out on the floor. But if you guys want them, you're more than welcome to come and grab them from us. And without hesitation, we'll let them know we'll be there. Because I believe that that's also a way that you keep great partnerships with stores or anybody that's trying to give you a donation. Once they give you a call, try to reach out or um, as fast as you can, to where that they see that the food is not going to be sitting there for too long, and by you showing up as fast as you can, uh, then next time they'll reach out, they'll know that who to reach out first, and hopefully that'll be us. um and yeah, for us, I feel like that's how you keep a healthy relationship. By hey, if we have something for you, okay, we'll go pick it up. Go ahead. And then sometimes, individual donations, food drives, sponsorships, food rescue might not be enough to keep our shelves stocked. We do one thing that we can, or George here, because George is the one that started this. Um, they come up with a great idea to build a small or have a small thrift store with secondhand items. We'll sell these items from anywhere from $1 to $15, depending on what it is. And then that's like our little pig bank, if you will, that we break it any time that we'll need it. That's just as an emergency, and usually our thrift store brings in about $1,000 a month, and that's for a rainy day, like I said, just so we can keep our shelves um, full, or that we have enough to give the people that come in and asking for pet food. And not last but not least, our grants. We were lucky to have received a grant for to buy food. Now, this grant that we got, we were very appreciative of it because it was to help. Specifically to help our people in the rural areas, and that way we knew that um, it made us feel a lot better because people in these rural areas are very much in need, right? Because once for us being able to have experience or having visited all these areas, sometimes we know that some people don't have the means to get or to drive here or find the transportation to get here. And now these grants are allowing us to, or this grant is allowing us to make trips out there more often and actually hand out food for these people living in the rural areas of Sonoma County.
Uh, so I'm gonna go ahead and this is my slide. Collecting data, talking about data, is something I love to talk about all the time. But basically, since we started running this pet food pantry program, one of the things that I wanted to do was to show why it was worth having this program. And the reasons you do that is by providing numbers, but making a case that this is working, that this is how many people are coming to our pantry, this is how many people are living with a bag of food, to basically create a picture of the need, because the need is there. And the thing is, like, when you say, I see it every day, right? But you don't have nothing to back it up, then it doesn't really work, right? So, but when you're able to say that and to have stories of people and this data to back you up, there's no excuse out there. Nobody can look the other way. The facts are facts and data are facts. So the way that we track data is through meals, number of meals that we give. We were deciding between what to track, pounds and meals. The formulas that we did were very simple. No, I'm not an Excel genius or anything like that. We were able to track both pounds and meals, because for certain donors or grantors, pounds, that's the way that they think about just the quantity of food, right? And this is something that I learned from Human Services world when I was a food banker, right? That people will look at how many pounds are you giving every year, but the language changed because most people were not interested in the pounds. They were talking about meals, how many people are eating every day, and I think that's what we decided to go with. But we track both regardless of that. And if you're not tracking these numbers right now or this type of data, I would suggest you do it. And it's very easy and simple. There's really no magic trick or anything to it. It's just like, for us, it's just a data sheet that we have out there. When somebody comes to pick out food, we just ask them, where are you from? And how many animals you have, and we just mark it. We don't ask so many questions about, like, is your space neutered? Is, are you, how many animals you have? Even when they tell us, like, they had 12 cats, right? We don't make assumptions of, like, oh wow, can you, we just go with the, we come from, like, this is a good program, and if you need it, it's for a reason, so here it is. We do explain to the client that we cannot provide more than what we're able to give, but we will never deny her to this bag. Like, this bag, you would always get it. Another thing that we look into is our city and zip code. So we didn't want to know the names of the people. We didn't want to know their phone numbers. We don't want to know. The only thing we want to know is where they're coming from. Because if you love your county, and if you like exploring your county, then you realize the big picture of where the areas of need are coming from, right? So, and also what areas of your county you might not be serving because they're far away from your services. So for us, obviously, Santa Rosa is the centralized part area that you see here. So we know that our shelter would cover most of this area. Hillsborough is in this area, which we hope that it covers the area right here, like Cel had mentioned. This area up here, these little towns that are pretty spread apart, and there's really nothing in between. And there's no major stores for pet food too. You gotta drive to Santa Rosa to go to the nearest Costco. Maybe the nearest Safeway is in Hillsborough, but your options become limited to find affordable pet food. So that's one of the things that we kind of looked at, like, where are people shopping? Where, if they need to get something in emergency, where they gotta go, and some places they gotta drive pretty far. So we track down that data of where they're coming from. It's very simple. Also, we wanted to know the number of animals that we're serving, because I think one of the interesting things that we learned through this pantry is that we know that people have more than one pet. Most people say, oh, they only have a dog, but there is the dog, the cat, the bird, the guinea pig, you name it, chickens. I mean, people just love animals, and that tells us that our county is an animal welcome county, meaning that people want pets, even if, or even housing doesn't permit it, people are still finding a way to get their pets. But that's something you cannot stop, and I think that's something that we want to share, that there's a lot of pets in this county, whether they're registered or not, that might be going hungry. And brings me to the next part of our conversation, which we hope that this is where you take that look beyond the pet food pantry, beyond the program, and that's the hunger relief effort that you're doing every day to help the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that hunger is something that everybody experiences. I don't care what race you are. I don't care what ethnicity anybody can experience hunger. That's just across the board. And that's something that you can, that everybody can relate to. And so does the pets. So pets would experience that. The only difference here is, like, if we're hungry, we're able to find services, to apply for services, right? But our pets, they're not. We had to apply for them. And there are pretty services that you can apply for. So let's start with one of the biggest programs in federal programs. So here in California, we know it has CalFresh, but it's the SNAP program, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And we look at this program because a lot of people enroll in it. A lot of people want to get, and this program is basically made out to help people that have low incomes to be able to get that gap of food for themselves to make it throughout the month. In California, 5 million Californians receive CalFresh benefits each month since 2022. The number has not gone down. And if you look at the data of every state for any code that for those people that are from different states that are in this call, you can look at this data. It's federal, it's available for you, and you can find it by county, by which is food stamps. So what tells me is that 5 million Californians, I'm just gonna use my state as an example. 5 million Californians are already receiving assistance for food for themselves, right? And that helps them, buy necessary needs, essentials food, right? But one of the things that is not considered an essential under this program, which is food, it's anything that's pet food is not considered a food item. And that for me, brings me to an area where it's like, okay, so we know there's 5 million people in need. They are trying to trying to get their needs met, and maybe their pets are part of their family. Their pets are part of the family, and they cannot even make that happen for them. So they had to start making choices like, do we share our food that we buy from the store to them? Or can I afford this pet, and is it time for me to bring it to a shelter, right? Like then those decisions that were very small become bigger and bigger and more serious decisions. So that's what the decision, we're trying to prevent, right? Another hunger indicator. So another way to look at hungry for the indicators of need, especially for we look at our county, we look at the CalFresh applications that are coming in every month. So one of the things that we have noticed, this is the data from September, is that more people are getting denied than approved. And usually when this happens, right, there's always like a safe net, and the safety net will be a food bank, or a pantry. So when those 1,317 people are getting denied, they go and can turn to a pet food. They can turn to a food bank or a food pantry to cover that need. But what about your pet? They're gonna be able to cover the needs for you and your family and any member of that, but not your pet. So number one, we know a lot of people are getting denied, and this is another part of this. When I used to do these applications for people working as a hunger relief worker back in the day, the amount of paperwork that is required for you to qualify is insane. It's almost like applying for a car loan. I don't think car loans even ask that much, and you had to send proof of income and send all these things, right? I mean, the process is already difficult enough to say like, okay, if you really need it, then this person should have it. The other indicator that we use is from the California Association of Food Banks. So we look at the population, the Sonoma County federal poverty level. All these numbers, you can find it, as I mentioned, in your local county website to see how many people, and when I mean people, how many of your neighbors are in a situation like this. And even ourselves, when we sell, we were having, we share some resources with you guys, but one of the resources that we came across was this calculator where they can tell you if you can affordably live in your county without having to worry about anything else. And when we do use this calculator and we put our income that we make, right, we realize that we're just not too far away from the 200% or the 100% federal poverty level. In California, every state is different, obviously, and that can change. But what that tells us, me and Cel, is that anybody, even animal welfare employees, can find themselves just with one paycheck away from being in this situation, like the people that are coming to the pet food pantries asking for pet food, or the people that are coming to your shelter trying to surrender their pets because they cannot provide for them. So I don't think that you need to do a lot of homework out there to present to your shelter why these programs are important. I think the data is already there for you to find it and to see it and say, hey guys, if we jump in on this, this is good for us. This is good for our community. This is good for the pets. Um, and then I'm gonna go to something that we did, an exercise in California that we did to prove a point. So I'm gonna let Cel take this on.
So yeah, we decided to we decided to put ourselves in people's shoes that come through our doors. But like Jorge was saying, we ended up putting our numbers in this calculator, and not only did I had to step out of somebody else's shoes and go back into my shoes because I was in the same predicament. If I didn't have this resource readily available to me because I work here, I'll probably be one of those persons walking into that door. Mind you, that's if I had a dog or a cat. At the moment, I don't, but sure enough, I'll find mine soon. And like I said, yeah, we decided to call 41 all well 41 food banks in California to see how many of them offer pet food. And when I've called them, um, asking, "Hey, can do you guys provide pet food?" Um, Most of the time, or all the time, we got no. Try social services. No. Try 211. No. Try social services or try 211. No. Yes. When we get it. But when we do get it, we either donate it to the homeless or we donate it to animal shelters. I do not know when we get it. Uh, no, but I can give you places where you where to go. And this question, this answer, I've only got it 3 times, and that was somebody. Um, Either one telling me of a pet food pantry or of a food bank that sometimes would have it, meaning, oh, our food bank doesn't have it, but if you want to reach out to these guys, they might have it. And to where it was a rotating door. But one of the ones that shocked me the most, sorry, we only have people who are here try social services. um Mind you, we find ourselves in this rotating door again, to where this person would go and try social services, and that social, social services person would probably I'll let him would tell him, oh no, we don't have any sources to give you pet food. You might want to try the food bank. And as you see, it would just be a nonstop rotating door to where they wouldn't get anywhere. They would still find themselves in the same prediction. Um, and yeah, this is why pet food pantries should exist. Now, since like we were saying, now food banks are a well-oiled machine. They already know where they're resourcing their food from. They already know where they're gonna stock it or have storage for it. They already know the agencies or the distributions they're gonna send these out to, and they already know who they're feeding. Um, if we would be Imagine if this would be the new image for the California Association of Food Banks. Imagine the impact not only would we have in shelters but in families. The impact it would make for shelters is that I bet you there would be a lot less pets coming in through the door, either to get surrendered, or there would be less pets found out there as strays. Because now people would find that, oh, if I go to the food bank, since I already went through all this process, now I get to have food for my family, for my pet. Um, because I feel like once we would be under that umbrella, and since I come from food banking experience, or that was my job before coming here, and I was part of the logistics side of the food bank, to where I knew that having the transportation, having the place to store the food, and seeing how fast the turnover of the food from when it got to the shelf into when it was at people's tables, it was so fast that um, I just, yeah, the turnover was so fast that just imagine. I don't know. I just can't iterate this. Sorry, um, I can't iterate it enough of how important this would be. Because that would mean that people would be able to go to these distributions and feed the whole family. Want to take it over, George?
Yeah. So bring us to kind of like the end of our presentation. And I think we want to leave you is with solutions, right? We always brainstorming things. So how can we help our county, but how can we provide the bigger the bigger solutions that can impact more people and more pets, right? And the one of the ones that we came out is if food banks can support pet food pantries with food sourcing, pet food pantries can increase capacity to help more people and pets and provide valuable data for hunger relief organizations to secure larger grants and funding. So when it comes to food insecurity, it's all about collaboration and collaboration with different agencies. One thing that we learned is that the food bank will collaborate with all these other agencies to be able to spread all the resources that were available for food. So we just asking, the idea is that we become part of that ecosystem so that we can also provide that to a lot of people. And so that they're also pets do not go through this food insecurity. And going back to that question earlier, right, that there's less people thinking about what hunger insecurity looks like for my pet, um, and the other part is to advocate. So one of the things, and this is because of the relationship that Sel and I have with our local food banks, since that's where we came from, that some of pet food pantry is something that doesn't get speak a lot in hunger relief effort, because we're not making it known. And what I mean is that we can talk about here in this call with animal welfare organizations about this great program, but the biggest impact is when we get to talk to them, to those agencies or those food banks, those 41 food banks or that association, to let them know that this is something that is happening. This is something that people need to be aware of. If me and Sal, two former hunger relief workers, were able to see pet food as a necessity, has and see this is a necessity. This is a gap that hasn't been provided for. This is an essential. I can tell you that there's many people in those shoes of food banking that will think the same way, but maybe just they aren't aware. So the way we advocate for people and pets in our communities to raise awareness for pet food insecurity and have food banks can fight hunger in the community through pet food pantry partnerships, because ultimately it's to solve um, the bigger picture. So I'm just going to leave it at that so we can have some time for questions.
Wow, beautiful. And if you want to unshare your screen so we can all look at each other again, that was really great. Sal and Jorge, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. Like some of the takeaways that like came to my mind was like, Sal, when you were talking in the beginning and you were talking about how much you give people, and you described as like, you give the little bit that you can, and even giving someone food for 3 to 4 days can completely change their life. And it reminds me that, like, in our industry, when we're often trying to solve a symptom of something much bigger, which Jorge, you described the bigger macro problem that we're kind of dealing with, which is hunger, it's this reminder to not forget that doing our little bit is enough, and it matters. And it can be a world of a difference for that person and that pet. And while we probably would all want to give everybody all the food they need and just have endless supply of food, like there's a resource that's finite. So hearing like how you manage that was really cool. And also just the power of the human animal bond, right? The lengths that people will go to feed their pets. And I'm just reminded that our jobs in this industry is to steward and promote the human animal bond. But Beautiful. Geraldine, any takeaways from your end?
Yeah, I think what struck me was, without saying it, you are providing dignity to the people that you serve. You never mentioned it once, but at the same time, like, I think that was like the underlying thing. You've removed all the barriers and the paperwork. You looked at SNAP, where they do all of the screening, so you don't need to do the screening all over again. So I love that, and I think, like, you're making people feel heard, because you've identified, like, the ask for pet food as, a source of a bigger problem, which is, hunger relief and being hungry. And it's wonderful to hear how your perspective is being brought into the whole issue. So thank you for that.
Yeah. No, gracias. And what I love is both of your vision, like your vision of like, here is the pet food, or here's the food bank industry, and look at if we were to have pet food be a part of this, how it could change everything. So for all of us who are on the call who can use our voice to advocate for those things, to use our platform and our network to build the relationships where we can start to advocate for these kinds of things, it's possible, So this call actually ends at the 50-minute mark. So we're going to give folks their time, pero we captured all of your really great questions. Thanks, Geraldine, for taking the lead on that document. So what we're going to do is we are going to turn those questions over to the Maddie's Pet Forum. And Jorge and Sal will ask you all to go on there and answer some of those folks' questions. So we can answer. A lot of them were very operational, like how much this and what's your philosophy in terms of how you engage. So it's very practical questions. And then I want to remind everybody that we are going to be on a holiday hiatus. And so we hope you have a really great rest of the year. Take some time to just reflect on, how did you move your life forward this year? What are you going to bring into 2025? What are you going to not bring into 2025 that doesn't serve you? So all of that, we will be back January 6th. And we look forward to it. Pero Jorge, Celestino, gracias todo. This was really, really great. I appreciate you both for being here today.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks for having us. We appreciate it.